Good evening, everybody. Wonder if anybody's actually going to be here tonight or not. I hope you have enjoyed your long holiday weekend. We did our last family weekend at the lake house and closed things up. We pulled our raft in from the water and stuff like that. We'll be up a couple more times in fall and near Christmas, but for the most part, the summer fun is over. It felt a little different because our kids were actually back in school like almost 2 weeks ago at this point. So usually we don't have that till after this weekend, but so that was kind of just a recap of what we did. I'm gonna just jump right in. If somebody pops in, say hello please, and if not, I hope you guys are all watching this later and then stamping along with me. All right, if you have checked out the page, here is what you're supposed to have on hand tonight. You are gonna want a card base that's 5.5 by 8.5 and scored. Hi Mary Lynn, happy Labor Day to you too. Scored at 4 1/4. You're going to want a piece of neutral cardstock, 4 by 5 1/4. You want a piece of DSP or printed paper, 1.5 by 4 3/4. And a piece of cardstock, and you can have it be the same color as your card base or different to coordinate with your DSP, whatever you like. That's going to be a 1 3/4 by 5. And then you want some sort of shape, like stamped and punched out, stamped and die cut, a die cut piece just all on its own, something that takes up the space of about a 2 by 2 surface area. And then you want a phrase that's about 1 by 2.5. All right, so what I'm going to be using tonight is my Holly Jolly, Bee Jolly. There used to be another Santa set that was called Holly Jolly, and I think I'm confusing those two. Bee Jolly stamp set, which is on page 29 of the mini catalog. And I've done a few things with this guy so far. They're really cute. If you like coloring, this is definitely a good set for you. He's an adorable little Santa, and I love this little tree. I'll post another sample I made with that little tree just all by itself. And this little sled or sleigh of presents is totally cute too. And I like the fonts that are fun as well. All right, so that's what I'm going to be using tonight is Bee Jolly. All right, so for my card base, I have a real red that of course has been scored at 4 1/4. And I'm just going to use my bone folder to go ahead and make up that crease and set that aside. All right, as hopefully I made clear in the thing, your punched out, die cut, shaped piece, etc. Hopefully you have that all stamped and ready to go. I'm just going to take a moment to color in. I think all I had left was his face to use. And I find myself going for petal pink, especially the light one, to do some of my face features. I think it's just enough, the right shade of a peachy color to take off just that little whiteness and show Santa up there. So I've also used real red and basic black to finish coloring Santa there. All right. Oh, and once again, wouldn't you know it, I have left my dimensionals back in my workspace. Give me 2 seconds to bring them over. Okay. So have your 2-inch piece ready there. Next, we're going to take your piece of designer series paper and we're going to attach it to your, oh here we go, because I have black cardstock again. This is your 1 3/4 wide piece, so attach those there with the frame, basically leaving a border around them. And so go ahead and do that. And then before we do any more assembly, we're going to take your piece of neutral cardstock, and it's where we're going to add our phrase, and then I will show you what to do with this piece that we have had handy. Hi Kathy, nice to see you. Hi Carol, glad you're joining me tonight. I hope you guys have had a great long weekend. All right, so take your 4 by 5 1/4 neutral piece. We're going to be working with it vertically, and find your phrase. I'm going to be using the A Merry Hello, which is in my Bee Jolly stamp set in my black ink. We're going to put our phrase about maybe 2/3 to 3/4 of the way down and leave it don't take it to the right edge, leave it off a little bit. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So first the first thing of stamping we're going to do is put our phrase on. And I'm just going to make sure, hopefully I'm straight because it's hard without putting my head in the way. There we go, that's pretty good. All right, so you want your phrase, like I said, about 2/3, 3/4-ish of the way down. And then leave a little bit of space off to the right. Alrighty, and I'm just going to adjust my DSP here. I put it on a little bit crooked. So while you guys are finishing up your stamping there we go. That makes me feel a little better. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to put adhesive on the back of this. both edges, and then have your scissor handy. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to line it up above where you've stamped so that it's mostly centered over what you stamped, and leave a little bit of a border above. And then put that down. Remember, you have adhesive up here, so don't stick it down to anything you're working on. Then you're going to flip it over and you're going to cut off that extra piece. Okay, but don't throw it away. Make it a nice clean cut against the edge of your 4x5 1/4 piece. Now flip it and take that same edge that has the border, and we're going to put it down here. So you want it to match up left to right with what you've done here. Now you should also have a little bit left over here that, again, you're just going to flip over and cut off, and that part you can throw away. Or if you have a use for a very skinny piece of designer series paper with a border, by all means, go ahead and use it on something else. But that is the base of the piece that kind of adds a little bit of interest, focal point to your card. We're having our designer series paper used in a way that I don't think we've done before. I can see my corners aren't sticking, so I'm just going to add a little more adhesive behind. There we go. That'll make me happier down the road. Okay, and then as per usual, we're going to take that and we're going to mount it onto our card base. Your choice if you want to do that with dimensionals or just put it straight on. Again, I like to keep this sometimes as flat as possible, especially if you know you're going to be mailing it. So this should border up with that one really nicely. Okay, like so. But I think I forgot to mention, this designer series paper comes from Painted Christmas, which is on page 29, or I'm sorry, page 17 of the mini catalog. Okay, now you're going to take that 2x2 shape, die cut piece, whatever you're doing, and you're going to want to see where you want to place it. It could be down a little bit depending on how wide this phrase is. It can be overlapping this a lot or a little. So just kind of figure out about where it balances out the most, the best for you. And then I'm going to pop mine up on dimensionals. So I'm going to take those guys and put them together. And I think I like him right about there. All right. And that's basically it. So, like, again, I want to show you a little bit of different way to use your paper with giving some visual interest. Gives, you know, you get the interest from what you've used for the pattern. You focus on the phrase a little bit differently than you might normally. And it's yet another layer you don't have to do for a phrase, because normally we might stamp that on something and then raise it up off of there. So that is, again, the basic layout for tonight. I will show you a couple samples I've done. Here is another version with the same concept, except you'll see it's almost like a step down than I normally do a step up. This is a little bit of a step down in some levels, layers. So I did the card base white, so I eliminated the red behind, but I added red here to the DSP. So the DSP has two layers, red and black, and then I added a black scallop circle around my Santa just to give it a little bit of pop more off of that white. I used some red rhinestones, and then I used our shimmery crystal effects. It's on page 128, and I don't know how it's, hopefully it's showing up on camera. The fur trim of what would be his hat is where I applied it, and it's shimmery as you can see, but then it's also kind of glossy. So if you can actually feel the smooth part of that on his hat and his, what would that be? The brim of his hat and the puff of the pom-pom? Whatever that part of Santa's hat would be called. Okay, then here's another one that follows similar to what we did tonight. So in this case, my neutral is actually cinnamon cider, and I got that from the DSP I was using. Let me get my cheat note out of here, which is from the Blackberry Beauty Designer Series papers, which you can find on page 45 of the mini catalog. I used the detailed pumpkin dies from page 48 to do my little pumpkin cutout, and this is the suede espresso ribbon that I just tied in a little knot. This also comes from the pumpkin set that matches the die set here. And I used espresso to go along again with the DSP because this is cider and espresso. And it's hard to see maybe, but here's the glimmery paper that you get that I cut that out as. And if you can see the difference, I took my blending brush and my cinnamon cider ink and I colored, right, you can see hopefully it's right about there. I colored that with cinnamon cider just to darken it up a little bit, and then I die cut out my pumpkin. So the pumpkin is actually a little darker and has some brown tone to it than if I had just used the shimmery gold. So it's a very subtle difference, but it's really kind of a cool technique. So you can take that glimmery paper that you get free in the celebration right now, and you can dress it up with some color. Now these, again, I did what I'm going to call the step down. I eliminated the need for the neutral layer, and I focused on using a neutraler, that's not really a word, a more neutral card base instead of having that neutral layer. So here's one I did in crumb cake, and the stamp set is the Love of Leaves, which is on page 115. I used the Stitch Leaves dies that match, and then this paper is Bloom Where You're Planted on page 131 from the annual catalog, and that's Evergreen, Cajun, Merlot, and Bumblebee are my fall flowers, and I used a little bit of linen thread there to tie them all together. So again, I eliminated the darker cardstock with the white with a neutral base, and I used just the neutral concept of the crumb cake there. I agree, Kathy, the Santa is totally adorable. I highly recommend Be Jolly, especially if you guys like to color. And here's one then, the two same similar concept. This is the cinnamon cider, and I took the colors from the gingerbread and peppermint designer series paper, which is on page 9. And as you'll see, I haven't actually purchased the die sets or anything yet. The dies will cut out shapes that you stamp, and then there also will cut out shapes from the DSP. But what I actually just freehand cut this one. And because it matched really nicely with this particular DSP pattern. So this is a 6x6 collection. You get a lot of sheets and a lot of cute, adorable patterns. The gingerbread cookie side is adorable, and the peppermint side is adorable. So overall, all in all, again, adorable. Thanks, Amanda. It's good to see you tonight. So there's a lot of different ways that you guys can do things with this layout. So like I said, you've got your you can do it with a neutral, with a colored background. And again, remember, when you're doing these, you're going to want to put a white layer inside so that you can see a phrase on the inside and write in it. All right, so let me stick those on the side. Hopefully we can get them all in camera here. These are both cinnamon cider. I'm going to take out the black. There we go. Cinnamon cider as the full base, and then here used as a neutral. And I think the leaf one is actually one of my favorites. I haven't used my Stitch leaf dies yet, and I am in love with them. It's such a cool piece, and I'm going to probably do a video for you guys later to see how that piece comes out, because it's two different dies that you run through at the same time. So there's a stamped image you can just die cut with the outer size or the outer shape, and then there's another piece that actually just puts that little stitched imprinting in there, and it's so, so cool. Alrighty, well, that was a really quick run through tonight, but I wanted to see, make sure you guys get back to your Labor Day celebrations, ready to get back to school tomorrow, whatever you got to do. That is how things are going to be happening at my house too. We got to get everybody back into school is starting tomorrow mode, because we had a nice weekend of chilling and sleeping in a little bit. So I can't wait to see what you guys create with this idea. Make sure you post them to my page later. I'll be uploading this video shortly after this ends here, and I'll post all the pictures of the samples as well. Thanks, Kathy and Amanda and everybody else who has popped in and seen me tonight. It's really sweet. Oh yeah, the pumpkin design is totally easy, Amanda. Love it, love it, love it. And in case you missed it earlier, I sponged color onto the glamour paper. It's got a little bit of cinnamon cider on it to just take away the bright part of the gold. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.